Good morning. This is Jim from Slick Cyber Systems. I'm joined with Chris, my colleague, and we have a special guest today, Kirsten Bay, CEO of Cysurance, which we actually have recommended to our customers through a particular program that I'm sure we're going to get into. But Kirsten, welcome. You know,
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for being here. So, can you explain just basically what cyber insurance is?
Yes, and it's a great question because I will be out and about and someone will ask me, "Hey, so what do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I run a cyber insurance company." And people go, "What's that?"
Yeah.
So, those of us who live in the insurance world, we go, "Well, how could people not know that?" But I also have learned that there's things like landslide insurance, which no one knows about either. So it's a big, big world of insurance products. And what cyber insurance is intended to do is protect organizations against those threat actors out there trying to put ransomware on people's systems, steal money from you. I call those cyber muggings. Um, things like data loss, even things that are accidental, like power outages that might render systems down for a period of time. So there's really a broad level of coverage around cyber, but it's anything around your digital footprint and being able to protect downtime, monetary losses, and even protections to replace equipment if it's damaged or destroyed.
Uh, that's that is an awesome description. Yeah, way more detailed than the IT guy could have gotten into. So that's awesome. Um, so why should SMB is our major market, not so much enterprise. But why should SMB be concerned in particular?
Yes, terrific question. And I spent a long time in threat intelligence, also running network traffic analysis companies. And for a long time, I would hear these types of concerns. Well, no one has. I don't have anything anybody wants, right? It's not. I'm not the target. And that might be true. I mean, it might not be that the bad guy wakes up in the morning and goes, I'm going to go get Kirsten today. But what I might be is in the 2.5 million IP address range that they decided to automate and hit me for. And that phishing email that was created because my credentials are out there floating around enabled them to be able to figure out something about me and a bunch of other people, the 100 million people perhaps that have credentials floating around from the AT&T loss as an example. This is really the way these things start for these small businesses, and then they do a little small thing and then they hop into your email system and you don't realize they're there, and then they start sending emails to you from your email system saying, "Hey, Jim, we changed our routing instructions, and so here's an updated invoice for you. Go ahead and send 150 grand over, and we're good, cool in the gang."
Yeah.
And then later on I get a call, "Hey, you haven't paid your bill." Wow, I totally paid my bill. And that's how it happens. And the small business is 100% that target. And that's where I call it the cyber mugging. I actually say, although I don't wish any of these things on people, ransom is actually a way better outcome than the business email compromise, which is the predominant risk that small organizations face, because the recovery opportunity between ransom and BEC is completely different. And not to be scary, but that really is the risk facing these organizations. And cyber insurance is a great supporter of being able to help organizations recover, potentially get those funds back if they're lost, but also marry with these types of solutions that you put in, like email protections that can even potentially save organizations from even having that happen at all.
Yeah, and that I'll be honest, both scare the living daylights out of me. The email obviously is number one. We see that all the time,
It's most of
and
our claims.
it's crazy. I would believe that. I would
Mhm.
truly believe that. And the ransomware stuff. I mean, as big as that was, and I mean, you can correct me on this. You probably know the stats way better, but I would say it's an order of magnitude more for the email compromise.
Yes, and to your point, it's really flipped over in the last year and a half. So now 1 in 3 claims is a business email claim,
Wow.
funds out of someone's organization. And it's just, and it breaks my heart every time one comes in, because these are just people trying to do their life, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
so
innocent.
yeah, and I feel very protective about that these, and it's easy. And the reason why I believe that they're switching over is because we got pretty good at those ransom defenses with immutable backups and all, managed detection response and endpoint, and we can contain and catch them relatively quickly. If we're encrypting, we can even make sure that data leakage, if it happens, isn't double extortion, so these things. So it's flipping over to there are 33 million small businesses in the United States. That means organizations with under 500 employees, 33 million of them. It's a happy hunting ground for a bad guy who's kind of, they're lazy. Let's remember, optimization and efficiency is everyone's big mission. And then
Right.
Yeah.
That's
they can
right.
optimize, right? And that's their goal.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So I know there was a stat, Chris made me a couple of cliff notes here to look at. Um, why do most cyber insurance claims get denied?
Lack of compliance. And
Could you help
some in this room
define
might
that?
define that as a gotcha, which it isn't. But when if you have a car crash and you aren't doing something fundamental or something really bad, then you would have your car claim denied as well.
Right.
And one of the ththings that has really started to happen, so way back in the olden times, 5, 6 years ago, is we would people just go and buy an insurance policy and they get it paid, and it wasn't a big deal. And then of course the insurance carriers were like, well, hold on a minute, now it's a big deal, right? And actually maybe people should be doing the things that they say they're doing. And that's really what it's coming down to. And it's important to remember that these are contracts. And it's called an insuring agreement, which is what an insurance policy is. And so when you say you have MFA deployed and you don't, you are breaking your contract with the carrier.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That we see that. I should say in the past we have been asked many times, "Oh, you just sign off on this?" No, no. If you want it implemented, we'll do it. And we're going to charge you for it. But I mean, we don't do services for free either. So it is crazy, to think that people today um, are just not putting full protection in. And there's a lot of SMBs that we run across. I mean, it's just like so laissez-faire. Oh, I don't care. You're going to end up shutting your business down. That's just the reality of it. Now we participate. We're a Kaseya house,
Mhm.
so we're taking advantage. Which, of course, Cysurance also participates with. Can you explain that program a little bit? And
Yes. So we have certified the solutions that are in the security stack. There are 5 products that go into that stack with Kaseya: MDR, EDR, email security, dark web ID, and my gosh, just fell out of my head.
bullfish.
Bullfish. That's right. So
Yeah, the
it was
fishing
like
training.
Graphis for email security, and then I was trying to get the phishing piece. So yes, thank you very much. Like I know our products, and so we certify those solutions, and then that goes into our stack. And what we do is we certify that with a security warranty. So we add an additional $500,000 of coverage. And then that does is it really matches to the underwriting requirements that we were just talking about. So it matches to make sure that all those things are done and dusted, as they like to say. And then we can add on our flat fee insurance program behind it.
Okay.
And these are highly reduced insurance rates. And the answer is, why? Because we're able, one, to take risk into the deployment of those products because we know that they're effective, and together they're extremely effective, which enables us to reduce the risk on the insurance carrier side of the house. So the mission for me, being a security practitioner originally, is I want to be able to free up dollars for organizations to spend on things that actually make a difference in their company, security products, as opposed to premium, which there are a few insurance people in the world who would say that, but really we know that it truly changes the risk profile because things will happen. And what I can demonstrate 100% is we've had incidents with products that, like some of our Kaseya customers, but it was caught quickly and contained quickly. And
Right.
so really the money spent on remediating was around, was there data leakage? Do we have a reportable event? Is the threat actor really gone? So it's really the cleanup and recovery piece as opposed to we just totaled the car and now we have to get a new car.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Oh, that yeah, that's awesome. I described extremely well. Thank you. That we've been trying to figure out ways to shed light on that for a while, and it's just we don't want to go out and say, hey, it's Kaseya products, but I mean, we obviously we're trying to market ourselves, not necessarily Kaseya, but it's just certainly a nice tool to have in the pocket to be able to say, oh, and by the way, we can get you an extreme discount on cyber insurance,
Yeah.
and that lights a lot of people up. I think it's good.
Well,
Um,
and to your point, this quickly is the question for the SMB related to these types of protections is how many people won't even drive across a supermarket parking lot without putting their seatbelt on?
True.
Like we are so conditioned now. When I think about like that evolution, but you don't back out of your driveway without putting on your seatbelt. And this is your cyber seatbelt. This isn't like lane drift and put your car into the parallel parking spot without using your hands kind of thing. These are like the basic things that massively and drastically reduce risk against something really bad happening to you. And that's the cyber seatbelt.
cool. That's
Now,
awesome.
we discussed, kind of what, and vaguely, I'm gonna say vaguely, generally what cyber insurance usually covers, but what's not normally covered that kind of surprises people?
That's a very good question. Um, what actually probably more is around things like waiting periods. So it's like if you have a system outage, as an example,
Yeah.
you might have to wait 12 hours before your coverage kicks in.
Mhm.
So it's pretty broad coverage in terms of the elements that will cover your organization from loss. The other is like what we refer to as a sublimit. So, like for example, social engineering is like about 25% of the total policy. Like really the max coverage these days is 250,000 as opposed to the full limit. So those are things that organizations get a little surprised about because they didn't read very carefully. So the one recommendation I always make is, really, really read it. I know that it's long and it's confusing with lots of legalese. Um, it's actually a good way to use sort of an AI, like a GPT thing, like give me a summary of my
Yeah.
program, of my
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah.
That's one of the good uses, but things like that. So, and exclusions can be very nuanced driven. So those can be things that, like there's a lot of talk about the war exclusion as an example, but those have been much better defined over the years. So like when we think of NotPetya, where all these organizations were hit, that caused a lot of people to go back and rethink. And so now, as long as you're not the original target in the war exclusion, typically you would still have coverage, and most people do. So it's more of those sort of nuanced pieces as opposed to an outright, well, that's not even in there kind of thing. And also things like betterment as an example. That's kind of sometimes it's in our form, but a lot of times it's not. And so, for example, an organization might have either a destroyed system or they might need to add something to their system to upgrade. And a lot of policies don't cover that upgrade piece. And so that's something to watch out for. Like you would think, oh, I can replace it for something that's in this century as opposed to that server I've been running since 1997.
Yeah.
Some policies won't allow you to do that, which is kind of strange because that server isn't even available anymore. But those are just things to think about.
That is something interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I have a question. What would an underwriter typically look for when evaluating a business? So they put an application in, and then what are they kind of things are they actually looking for?
So there are a few key things that we like to look at. One, obviously, is MFA. It's still probably one of the biggest drivers of if you don't have it, just don't even come knock on the door kind of things. The other one is and it's becoming more prevalent in terms of degradation of coverage was its patch cycles. So I've seen many policies where you have your full coverage, but then if you haven't patched in 60 days or sometimes 45 days, it drops to 90% coverage and then 75 and then down and down. So there's sort of, you have some coverage, but it becomes more punitive as those patch cycles are lengthened,
Right.
which then would dovetail into end of life around certain solutions. And, we still know all those people who occasionally run those XP boxes because they can't replace them in some, environments. So then that would flow into, how do you have compensating controls or segregate that from the network so that a threat actor can't jump and move laterally across the network. So those are the big ones: identity and access management, related, of course, to MFA, so escalation of privileges. But as you know, I mean, those things all become like MFA, but then you have all the sort of downstream tick boxes that
Right.
attach to that, and how you manage Active Directory. Um, and then patching, immutable backups is another big biggie. So, and I try to remind people that, like in an Office 365 environment, that's a capability, but you must turn it on. It's not on automatically. So it's things like that that are really the key things, and then sort of the subcategories that might come downstream from immutability. How often is it scanned? Those elements.
Got it. Got it.
I have a question that kind of follows in the line of everything you've been saying so far. So this one's going to kind of speak to customers that we potentially speak to, or clients that might think they have enough knowledge internally. Do you find that it's helpful when a business works with an MSP, to get better rates, better coverage, better overall execution of this whole process of getting the insurance and making sure all those teams are in place if there is an event that my staff and some external assets like ourselves is in place?
100%. So when I look at our claims activity, where I see the high severity claims
Mhm.
are with organizations who have internal IT teams but haven't outsourced that whole security management function,
Okay.
and get tripped up and miss something pretty fundamental. And that's not to say that they're not knowledgeable, or whatever that looks like. It's more of a function of the complexity around containment drivers. How are they deployed? What does that look like? How's it calling home to the MDR? Things like this, where that's where we see that much better outcomes occur because services were in place than when they're not.
Okay.
And quantifiably, I can, just from our own experience, I have seen substantially better outcomes when they have a managed service.
It's good to hear.
Awesome. Absolutely. So what's coming to cyber insurance in 2026 and beyond? If you had to look through the old looking glass.
6 months out. Yeah.
Yes. So the big thing is AI, AI, right?
Mm,
And so looking at, what we see a lot now is that most policies are what we refer to as silent, meaning that there's no statement about it, not for, not against, which means technically that coverage exists in some way, but it also gives a carrier a potential out to say, oh, well, I'm not going to cover that because, right? And so what organizations are looking for is what's referred to as affirmative coverage, meaning it is absolutely stated that there's coverage related to these types of incidents. And so that's the thing I see advancing very, very quickly. So we are definitely looking at that for ourselves and for our companies. Obviously, that applies a lot to larger size organizations, but smaller organizations, to our earlier discussion, should really be thinking about this, because if you are using GPT and not thinking about things like what kind of data you're putting in there, you may have data leakage issues you hadn't
Hmm.
even thought of
Yep.
that could surface if you have an incident and become part of that incident. AI agents, or some of the different programs that people are using, like bots that are capturing data. So there are now organizations that are managing compliance around those connections to ensure there's not over permissioning. So these are things that's really, to me, going to be on the forefront of how we start really changing and looking at coverage for organizations, and how we manage risk, for threat actors getting in and leveraging an AI agent to move laterally across environments, and how you set those protections.
yeah, AI scares the living daylights out of me. It really does. I mean, not the old Terminator movies, right? I mean, we could laugh at that, but I mean, I think that could be very real. Some strange version of it, but I don't know. It's maybe it's my age. I don't know.
No. In fact, and I'll send you the link to. There's an article in TechCrunch that was just came out that with Claude, they had an internal research team run a program where they told this agent that it was the CEO of a vending machine company, and really it was just a little internal section that had its own agents, and they had a refrigerator. And within a couple days, it started restocking the vending machine with metal tokens, not even like Coke or chips. Then it like totally hallucinated and decided that it was going to arrive in physical form wearing a blue blazer and a tie, and started trying to send messages out to the security team to alert them that he was going to be showing up. Then they were telling it, no, you aren't real. Like they had to tell it wasn't real. And then it lied and said, oh, I know that it was an April Fool's joke. So it lied. So and they were like stunned by this. It took on its own personality. So you're not wrong. It's a crazy example, but it was an interesting experiment.
Yeah, that's wild. And I know Steve and I read an article. Steve's another one of our employees, our VPs. We read an article where they actually wrote an algorithm to say, shut down, turn off.
Yeah.
And it was like 1 out of 7 times. You remember the stat, Chris? It was like 1 out of 7
I don't remember
times.
I don't remember the stat, but I remember the article.
It just refused
Yeah.
to shut down. It would not listen to or execute the command. I was like, here we go.
2001 they thought Odyssey is
Yeah.
a true story.
Yeah.
No, Dave.
Cyberdyne Systems is coming. Oh God! And there actually is a Cyberdyne Systems out in California. That's no joke. I've driven past it already. It's nuts. Any final advice or thoughts that you have for for our type of community, and even for us?
Yeah, I mean this is a team sport, as we like to say in security, and always think about what's possible, but also recognize that whatever one might think about what a threat actor might want, not want, think about, motivated by it. Don't even try and speculate, because second guessing it isn't worth it, right? Just do the right protections, wear your cyber seatbelt, and we'll get through it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on with us today. I can't, thank you enough. And maybe we could do it another one in a handful of months or whatever. And as 2026 and the whole AI thing, starts getting a little bit clearer, that would be great to talk with you again then.
Anytime, would love it. Thank you. It was really fun.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
If you find this content helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and share with your friends and your colleagues. Thank you.